Senator, first of all, tell me about the journey to get your coalition together and the guests that you're bringing tonight.
Well, Harris, has been very encouraging. We've seen Democrats across the state supporting my campaign, supporting my reelection this year. And it's because the National Democrat Party has changed. It has lost touch with who the party used to be. This is not your father or your grandfather's Democrat Party. And in Texas, Texans want a senator who supports common sense, who supports jobs, who supports energy, who supports law enforcement. Texans want a senator who fights to secure the border. You know, Sheriff Dominguez has been a sheriff in Presidio County. Presidio County is in South Texas. It's right along the Rio Grande River. He's been an elected Democrat for 28 years, and he's supporting me because for 12 years in the Senate, I've fought to defend the state of Texas, to support law enforcement, and to secure the border. And Sheriff Dominguez is seeing firsthand that the human suffering, the tragedy, the deaths that are resulting from the open borders we've had under Joe Biden, and that's just not something he can support. It's not something most Texans, or I think most Americans, support.
You know, your state right now is winning against the push, the mighty push that the White House had put on all of you. Take down the razor wire, move the cargo containers. That's working to the point where the cartels now are poking different areas along the border, Arizona, California. I mean, your state still has so much to deal with. But when you talk to that sheriff, what can you say to him to give him hope?
Well, I think the real hope is going to have to come in November. I don't believe Joe Biden has any interest in ever securing the border because he deliberately caused this crisis. The thing to understand, when Biden came into office just over 3 years ago, he inherited incredible success. When he came into office, he inherited the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. I worked hand in hand with President Trump to secure the border, and we achieved remarkable success. And all Biden had to do was do nothing, just not screw it up. But instead, he deliberately broke the border. He made 3 decisions his first week in office that caused this crisis. He immediately halted construction of the border wall. He reinstated the disastrous policy of catch and release, and he pulled out of the incredibly successful Remain in Mexico agreement. That's what caused this crisis. And he did it deliberately. We're sitting here 3 years later, and more than 10.4 million illegal immigrants have streamed into this country, the bulk of them through Texas. And that is deliberate. It is man-made. And, you know, we've seen an amazing thing in the last year or so. We've seen Democrat mayors and Democrat governors in New York City, in Boston, in Chicago, and L.A. acknowledging this is a crisis. Eric Adams, the Democrat mayor in New York, says illegal immigration is destroying New York City. Well, he's right. But New York City has had 110,000 illegal immigrants come to it. Texas and the rest of the southern border, we've had 10.4 million. And this is a crisis, and it's a crisis that the president caused. It's a crisis Joe Biden could fix, but he doesn't want to. The answer is going to be winning in November.
Well, we know that when numbers get that big, and by the way, I've been interviewing particularly black residents in Chicago who feel like all their resources are being soaked up by the illegals, because fentanyl makes every state a border state.
Yes.
So Illinois has really dealt with that. But what I want to make the point about is when you get numbers that high, you can't control, vet, or even hope to know who's coming into the country. And so murderers, all sorts of people are coming across the border now. People on the terrorist list, we know one went through Brownsville just days before the president was supposed to have a scrubbed forensic clean visit, which he did. I don't even know if he knew who had just crossed the border. But there's one young woman right now that seems to be the focal point. Unfortunately, we've had many. At this moment in time, 22-year-old murdered nursing student Laken Riley's parents were told do not plan to attend the State of the Union tonight, despite an invite from Georgia Congressman Mike Collins. He says the seat will be reserved. They'll leave it empty. It's where she would have been honored by her parents sitting there. Now they'll have an empty seat. It will remain vacant to honor Laken and all American victims of illegal alien crimes. And we will wait to see if President Biden actually says Laken Riley's name. He has not yet. Your thoughts on it?
You know, Harris, it's absolutely tragic, and sadly, I think Joe Biden will not say her name. He has refused to say it so far. I don't think we will hear the words Laken Riley when he stands there. I don't think he will acknowledge the empty chair. I don't think he will acknowledge the mother and father who are grieving the loss of their beautiful daughter. I'll tell you two other names that I'm confident Joe Biden will not say. He will not say the name Jeremy Caceres. Jeremy Caceres was a 2-year-old little boy who was murdered just a few weeks ago in Virginia, again by an illegal alien who Joe Biden let go. And this pattern over and over and over again, these open borders are producing real victims and real tragedies, and Joe Biden and the Democrats don't acknowledge it. You look at the murderer who took Laken Riley's life. He was from Venezuela. He was apprehended in Texas, in El Paso. Now, the right thing to do would have been, when he was apprehended there, to have put him on a plane and to flown him back to Venezuela. That would have been the right thing to do. And if Joe Biden had done that, Laken Riley would still be alive. But Biden didn't do that. Instead, he paroled him into the country, let him go. What did he do? He went to New York City. In New York City, he again was arrested a second time, this time for endangering a child. But New York City is a sanctuary city. So what did they do? They let him go. They didn't put him in jail. They didn't deport him. They let him go. If New York City had put him in jail for endangering a child, Laken Riley would still be alive. But instead, that murderer went down to Georgia, and Laken Riley went out for a jog, and he beat her to death. These are real victims, and our families are all in greater jeopardy because of Biden's radical open borders, and he refuses to change it. He refuses to fix it.
Well, Senator, and the suspects in these cases all broke our initial border law. They came here illegally.
Yes.
We could have immediately deported them. And then none of this would be happening. The NYPD officers beaten in the streets of Times Square, all of it. All right, I want to get to this. And it's pretty unbelievable, so we just have to see it. It's loads of backlash now around the MSNBC panel, whose members were laughing, thought it was hysterical, during a segment about voters' top concern. I mean, all over the country now, top concern being the situation at our border. Let's watch.
If you look at some of these exit polls, I mean, I live in Virginia. Immigration was the #1 issue. I mean, again, these could change in Virginia.
Well, Virginia does have a border with West Virginia. Very contested area.
Build the wall. Like, what?
I still don't have a word for it.
Yeah. Look, I've actually called on Jen Psaki and Rachel Maddow to apologize for that, to apologize. You know, I mentioned Jeremy Caceres a second ago. He was murdered about 30 miles away from Jen Psaki's $1.7 million home in Arlington, Virginia. But from her perspective, that apparently is a laughing matter. She doesn't understand why families are concerned when their children are being murdered by illegal aliens. Well, you know what? Across the country, a whole lot of families understand, and we want to protect our families. We want to support law enforcement and secure the border. And I think that clip is emblematic of how out of touch the corporate media is they're sitting there laughing at who are these peasants to be worried about this. And that's really, it's why so many people are understandably upset.
Well, and it really drills home the issue that they don't understand the people on either side of the issue.
Yeah.
You know, we have American families who have come from different countries the right way. They're in danger, too. I mean, they're new to American citizenship. We're all in this together. It is a big cauldron of hell right now for us.
Yeah, look, that's exactly right.
Out of control.
And I'll tell you that. Yeah, look, there are a lot of residents who are really frustrated. We've seen a pattern with Democrat cities housing illegal aliens in airports. They're doing that at JFK in New York. They're doing it at Logan Airport in Boston. They're doing it at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. And by the way, that is really dangerous. We're seeing in New York, they're housing illegal aliens in schools. And the residents in the school, the kids who go to the schools and the parents are really upset going, why are you throwing my kid out of the school they go to because you're housing illegal aliens? And so many of these Democrat politicians say to their constituents essentially, tough luck. We don't worry about Americans, that you're not our priority.
Senator, I've been saying it to people in Chicago, people here in New York. If you want change, you got to vote differently now. Like you can't continue to do the same thing and expect a different outcome. It's not going to happen that way. It has to be vote for your interest and not any other reason. It is great to have you on the program. Thank you so very much for helping preview the State of the Union address and who you're bringing with you tonight. God bless you, Senator.
Thank you, Harris. I appreciate it. Take care.